Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathashala. This is Mrs. Prema Janardhan, Vice Principal, presenting on Module 18, Different Institutions-Based Conventional Programs. Learning objectives: to understand the concept of institutions for crime prevention, the difference between programs and practices, crime prevention programs in communities, crime prevention within families, crime prevention programs in schools, crime prevention programs in labor markets, crime prevention programs in places, crime prevention programs through the police, crime prevention programs through the criminal justice system. Introduction. Research on crime prevention in America reveals that its results manifest along 7 institutional settings of human development and daily life. In other words, some everyday practices in these 7 settings result in crime prevention. A setting is a social stage for playing out various roles such as parent, child, neighbor, employer, teacher, and religious leaders. These institutional settings are communities, families, schools, labor markets, places, police agencies, and the criminal justice system. The definition of these settings for crime prevention are quite broad and sometimes they overlap. But much of the crime prevention research fit well into these categories. Research also suggests the interdependency of these institutions. The necessary conditions for successful crime prevention practices in one institutional setting is adequate support for practice in another institutional setting. For example, crime prevention programs in schools cannot succeed without support facilities, families cannot succeed without supportive labor markets cannot succeed without well-policed safe streets, and policing cannot succeed without community participation in labor markets. Interdependent institutional settings of crime prevention. Crime prevention is the consequence of 7 institutional forces. These forces create bonds within the individual that exert what criminologists call as informal social control in preventing crime. According to Sampson and Law, institutional settings provide turning points in the life course of individuals that deter them from committing crimes. These turning points may bring in more supervision and monitoring, new opportunities of social support and growth, change and structure, routine activities, or provide opportunities for new identity transformations. Schools, labor markets, and marriage thereby attract a commitment from the individual to conform to a conventional life pattern that could be endangered by criminality. Programs and practices. Crime prevention efforts in the 7 institutional settings may be of 2 types. Practices. This may be defined as an ongoing routine activity that will be established in that setting. Most parents make children come home at night. Most schools have established starting times. Most stores try to catch shoplifters, and most police departments answer emergency calls. A practice is something that may change naturally over time or change due to change in government policies and restrictions. Programs. This is a focused effort to change, restrict, or create a routine practice in a crime prevention setting. In USA, most programs are federally funded. Churches may adopt programs to discourage parents from spanking children or letting children watch violent television shows and movies. Universities may adopt programs to escort students from the library to their cars in the hours after midnight. Shopping malls may ban juveniles escorted by their parents on weekends evenings, and police may initiate programs to enforce long ignored curfew or tolerance laws. In time, some programs may turn into practices with few people remembering the time before the program was introduced. The major difference between practice and program is when additional resources are required of them. The disciplinary practices of parents, for example, and hiring practices of employers are independent of funding. But notifying a rape victim of the imminent release of the offender may be a practice that only a government funded program can start and keep alive. In short, many practices that began as government-funded programs might die out in the absence of continued funding. Community-based crime prevention programs. Communities are the central institution for crime prevention and the stage on which all other institutions perform. Families, schools, labor, markets, retail establishments, police and corrections must all confront the consequences of the community life. Much of the success or failure of these other institutions is affected by the community context in which they operate. Weed and Seed Program. The US Department of Justice Weed and Seed Program was developed to demonstrate an innovative and comprehensive approach to law enforcement and community revitalization and to prevent and control violent crime, drug abuse, and gang activities in targeting areas. The program, initiated in 1991, attempted to weed out violent crime, gang activity, and drug abuse and trafficking in target areas and then seed the target area by restoring the neighborhood through social and economic revitalization. Weed and Seed had three objectives: develop a comprehensive multi-agency strategy to control and prevent violent crime, drug trafficking, and drug-related crime in target neighbors, coordinate and integrate existing and new initiatives to concentrate resources and minimize their impact on reducing and preventing violent crimes, drug trafficking, and gang activity. Mobilizing community residents in the target areas to assist law enforcement in identifying and removing violent offenders and drug traffickers from the community and to assist other human service agencies in identifying and responding to service needs of the target area. To achieve these goals, Weed and Seed integrated law enforcement, community policing, prevention, intervention, treatment, and neighborhood restoration efforts. The Weed and Seed program was implemented in more than 150 communities across the country. Weed and Seed's rationale for preventing serious crime was a high concentration of resources addressing a high concentration of risk factors in small geographical area. Programs based on communities that care model. Under the CTC model, local juvenile justice agencies collaborate with the other young serving agencies to develop an integrated system of services designed to prevent delinquency. The program plan is for local jurisdiction to identify risk factors known to be associated with the delinquent behavior, to identify protective factors that buffer the effects of the identified risk factors operating within the communities, and to target programs interventions on those factors. The program is implemented in two phases. During phase 1, the assessment and planning phase, communities interested in participating in the program must form a local prevention policy board and conduct an assessment to identify and prioritize the risk factors operating in the community. On the basis of this assessment, the applicant community then must develop a specific comprehensive 3-year delinquency prevention plan. This plan serves as the basis for the community's application to the government funding agency for the program funding. Phase 2 of the process involves the implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of the program services. Gang prevention and intervention program. Under such programs, the community conducts a gang problem assessment to identify elevated risks that lead to child delinquency and gang involvement. Communities must define youth gangs, locate them, and identify targets the youth who are at greater risk of joining. Because every community has its own characteristics, each must agree on a unique definition that will guide its data collection and strategic planning. The following are widely accepted criteria among researchers for classifying groups as youth. The group has 3 or more members. Members share an identity typically linked to a name and often other symbols. Members view themselves as a gang and others recognize them as a gang. The group has some permanence and a degree of organization. The group is involved in an elevated level of criminal activity. To help communities understand their unique gang situation, an assessment should to answer these questions. Who is involved in gang related activity and what is the history of these gangs? What crimes are these individuals committing? When are these crimes being committed? Where is the gang related activity primarily occurring? Why is the criminal activity happening? Individual conflicts, gang frauds, gang members acting on their own. Communities also identify neighborhoods with many risk factors for gang involvement, schools and other community settings in which gangs are active, hotspots of gang crime, high rate gang offenders, violent gangs. The next step is to identify program gaps and develop an coordinated continuum of prevention and intervention program services and sanctions in concert with a targeted strategy of community and government agencies responses to serious and violent gang activity. Prevention and intervention services should be directed to the neighborhoods, schools and families from which gangs emanate. A balance of prevention, intervention and suppression strategies is important for success in any community. Prevention programs target youth at risk of gang involvement and help reduce the number of youth who join gangs. Intervention programs and strategies provide sanctions and services for younger youth who are actively involved in gangs to push them away from gangs. Law enforcement suppression strategies and intensive services target and rehabilitate the most violent gangs and older criminal active gang members. Primary prevention program. Primary prevention refers to services and support that reach the entire population in communities with large amounts of crime or gang activity. One such program is the Gang Resistance Education and Training. This is a school-based gang prevention curriculum that has demonstrated evidence of effectiveness. Law enforcement officers offer middle school students a 13-week curriculum that describes the dangers of gang involvement. The lesson content emphasizes cognitive behavioral training, social skills development, refusal skills, and conflict resolution. The GREAT program also offers an elementary school curriculum, a summer program, and training for families. Secondary prevention program. Secondary prevention program refers to programs and services directed towards youth who have already displayed early signs of problem behavior and are at high risk for gang involvement. The preventive treatment program in Montreal is an excellent example of an early intervention program that has reduced gang involvement, even though it was not developed with this purpose in mind. It was designed to prevent antisocial behavior among boys aged 7 to 9 with a low socioeconomic status who had previously displayed disruptive behavior in kindergarten. The program improved school performance, reduced delinquency and substance use, and showed that a combination of parent training and childhood skill development can steer some children away from the gangs before they reach mid-adolescence. Aggression replacement training is a secondary prevention program for highly aggressive and delinquent youth that has demonstrated evidence of effectiveness. It consists of a 10-week, 30-hour cognitive behavioral program administered to groups of 8 to 12 adolescents. During these 10 weeks, youth typically attend 3 one-hour sessions per week on skill streaming, anger control, and moral reasoning training. ART showed positive results when tested with gang involved with youth in Brooklyn, New York. Ceasefire Chicago is a community-level gun-related violence prevention program that has demonstrated effectiveness in gang crime prevention. The program sponsors a strong public education campaign to instill the message that shootings and violence are not acceptable, which works to change community norms regarding violence. It provides alternative to violence when gangs and individuals on the street are deciding whether to engage in violent actions. Juvenile justice. Additionally, Ceasefire Chicago strengthens communities, gives them the ability to exercise informal social control and mobilizes them to reverse the epidemic of violence. It specifically targets dangerous activities of careful community members of the community who have a great chance of either being shot or being shooters in the immediate future. Generally speaking, program outreach workers called violence interrupters worked on the street and in the hospitals to mediate conflicts between the gangs and especially individual gang members, but they also intervene on behalf of the clients to stem the cycle of retaliatory violence. Outreach workers carry caseload of 15 clients for whom they broker services, assist with employment and provide direct counseling and support services in many ways. Crime prevention programs directed at families. Family at risk factors have a major effect on crime. Family-based crime prevention has not only been found to be successful in addressing these risk factors, but it is the avenue for early start of prevention. Research indicates that programs for infants and young children may be most cost effective in long term run, even if they are expensive in the short term. Family based crime prevention programs may be of either universal or focused programs. Universal programs are offered to or even imposed upon all families. In several European countries, for example, all families with the newborn children are required to admit trained nurses to their homes to visit the baby. This program applies to everyone without regard to any risk factors. Focused programs are of two kinds. One kind is selective, in which families identify as being at risk are offered or mandated to receive a service intended to prevent the onset of harm. The other kind of focused program is called indicated. In the case of crime and delinquency, indicated programs are offered to prevent recurrence of crime by children already manifested crime or crime risk. Among focus group programs, the following types have been found to be most effective. Long-term frequent home visitation combined with preschool prevents later delinquency. Infant weekly home visitation reduces child abuses and injuries. Family therapy by clinical staff for delinquent and pre-delinquent youth. School-based crime prevention programs. Schools have great potential as a locus for crime prevention. They provide regular access to students throughout the developmental years. And perhaps the only consistent access to large numbers of the most crime-prone young children in the early school years. They are staffed with individuals paid to help youth develop as healthy, happy, productive citizens, and community usually supports schools' efforts to socialize youth. Many of the precursors of delinquent behavior are school-related and therefore likely to be amenable to change through school-based interventions. Figure shows several school-related precursors to delinquency identified by researcher. These factors include characteristics of school and classroom environment as well as individual level school related experience and attitudes, peer group experiences and personal values, attitudes and beliefs. School environment factors related to delinquency include availability of drugs, alcohol and other criminogenic commodities such as weapons, characteristics of classroom and school, social organizations such as strong academic mission and administrative leadership, and a climate of emotional support. School-related experiences and attitudes which often precede delinquency. School environment factors related to delinquency include availability of drugs, alcohol and other criminogenic commodities such as weapons, characteristics of classroom and school, social organizations such as strong academic mission and administrative leadership, and a climate of emotional support. School-related experiences and attitudes which often precede delinquency include poor school performance and attendance, low attachment of school and low commitment to schooling. Peer-related experiences, many of which are school-centered, include rejection by peers and association with delinquent peers. And individual factors include early problem behavior, impulsiveness or low levels of self-control, rebellious attitudes, beliefs favoring law violation and low levels of social competency skills such as identifying likely consequences of actions and alternative solutions to problems, taking the perspective of others and correctly interpreting social cues. Several recent reviews summarize the research literature linking these factors with crime. School-based crime prevention programs may be of two types. Programs aimed at changing the school environment, building school capacity. Interventions to change the decision-making process or authority structures to enhance the general capacity of the school. These interventions often involve teams of staff and sometimes parents, students and community members engage in planning and carrying out activities to improve the school. They often diagnose school problems, formulate school goals and objectives, design potential solutions, monitor progress and evaluate the efforts. Activities aimed at enhancing the administrative capability of the school by increasing communication and cooperation among members of the school community is also included. Setting norms for behavior, rule setting. School-wide efforts to redefine norms for behavior and signal appropriate behavior through the use of rules. It includes activities such as newsletters, posters, ceremonies during which students declare their intention to remain drug-free and displaying symbols of appropriate behavior. Some well-known interventions in this category are Red Ribbon Week, a school-wide campaign against bullying. The category also includes efforts to establish or clarify school rules or discipline codes and mechanisms for the enforcement of school rules. Managing classes using instructional methods designed to increase student engagement in the learning process and hence increase their academic performance and bonding to the school. And classroom organization and management strategies. The latter include activities to establish and enforce school rules, uses of rewards and punishments, management of time to reduce downtime, strategies for grouping students within the class, and use of external resources such as parents, volunteers, police officers, and professional consultants as instructors or ADs. Regrouping students. Reorganizing classes or grades or to create smaller units, continuing interaction, or different mixes of students or to provide greater flexibility in instruction. It includes changes to school schedule, adoption of school within schools or similar arrangements, tracking into classes by ability, achievement, effort or conduct, formation of grade level houses or teams and decreasing class size. Alternative schools for disruptive youths are also included in this category. Programs aimed at changing the individual instructing students. The most common strategy used in school. These interventions provide instruction to students to teach them factual information, increase their awareness of school social influences and engage in misbehavior, expand their repertoires and for recognizing and appropriately responding to risky or potentially harmful situations, increase their appreciation for diversity in society, improve their moral character, etc. Example of such programs include drug abuse resistance education and gang resistance education training. Behavior modification and teaching thinking strategies. Behavior modification strategies focus directly on changing behaviors and involve timely tracking of specific behaviors over time, behavioral goals, and uses feedback or positive or negative reinforcement to change behavior. These strategies rely on reinforcers external to the student to shape student behavior. Larger or more robust effects on behavior might be obtained by teaching students or modify their own behavior using a range of cognitive strategies research has found lacking in delinquent youth. Efforts to teach students thinking strategies involve modeling or demonstrating behaviors and providing rehearsal and coaching in the display of new skills. Students are taught, for example, to recognize the physiological cues experienced in risky situations. They rehearse this skill and practice stopping rather than acting impulsively in such situations. Students are taught and rehearsed in such skills as suggesting alternative activities when friends propose engaging in a risky activity. And they are taught to use prompts or cues to remember to engage in behavior. Peer programs, peer counseling, peer mediation and programs involving peer leaders. Other counseling and mentoring, individuals counseling and case management and similar group-based interventions excluding peer counseling, counseling in distinguished from mentoring, which is generally provided by a lay person rather than a trained counselor, is not necessarily guided by a structured approach. Providing recreational enrichment and leisure activities, activities intended to provide constructive and fun alternatives to delinquent behavior. Drop-in recreation centers after school and weekend programs, dances, community services, activities and other events are offered in these programs as alternatives to the more dangerous activities. School-based crime prevention programs that have been effective in the following areas are crime and delinquency. Programs aimed at building school capacity to initiate and sustain innovation. Programs aimed at clarifying and communicating norms about behaviors. by establishing school rules, improving the consistency of their enforcement, or communicating norms, school-wide campaigns or ceremonies, and comprehensive instructional programs that focuses on a range of social competence skills, self-control, stress management, responsible decision making, social problem solving, and communication skills that are delivered over a long period of time to continually reinforce skills. Substance use. Programs aimed at clarifying and communicating norms about behaviors. Comprehensive instructional programs that focus on a range of social competency skills and that are delivered over a long period of time to continually reinforce skills, and behavior modification programs that teach thinking skills to high risk youths. Labor markets and crime prevention. Employment and crime have a complex relationship. For an individual, they can be substitutes for or complements. For example, some people choose crime rather than legitimate work because of an expectation that they can make more money from crime and or because they find it more rewarding in other ways. On the other hand, the workplace can offer opportunities for certain kinds of crimes that are more difficult to commit elsewhere, such as theft of inventory or selling of gambling services. A strong negative relationship exists between employment and crime. Those who commit crime tend to be out of the labor force or unemployed. The communities with high crime rates show persistently high jobless rates, increasing employment and potential for employment for individuals and communities currently at high risk of persistent joblessness may have a substantial preventive effect on crime. Thus, crime prevention programs should be aimed at increasing employment. Programs aimed at reducing crime through employment and or increasing employment in high crime areas fall into the following two main categories. Supply side programs aim to improve the attractiveness of individuals to employers. Mostly these programs increase the potential productivity of the worker through education or job training. However, categories includes programs that take account of the fact that many high-risk individuals are handicapped by their location. These programs move people to jobs either by transportation, subsidies, or by actually providing access to housing in lower crimes communities nearer areas of high employment potential. Programs in the supply side may be of the following types: job training and education programs for juvenile offender, providing legitimate employment and employment skills to at-risk individuals can reduce their criminal participation. Such programs provide basic education, vocational training, and work experience for youth in high crime and high employment communities. These programs target young juvenile offenders based on the premise that early interventions have higher payoff if successful. Young offenders are confined in institutions which generally give more emphasis to rehabilitation than do adult correctional facilities. Job training and education programs for adult offenders. These programs are targeted at adult offenders after incarceration or once they are within the ambit of the criminal justice system. Needles found that the ex-offenders with jobs commit fewer crimes than the ex-offenders without jobs, and those with higher earnings commit fewer crimes than those with lower earnings. However, adult offender-based programs have not been found to be very effective, as offenders are either too deeply entrenched in crime or the criminal justice system is not an effective delivery system for these types of programs. Job training and education programs for at-risk youth. At-risk youth include high school dropouts, kids for poor household or poor communities who may be susceptible to committing crimes. Programs aimed at youth tend to take three forms: the provision of summer work or other forms of subsidized employment in either public or private sector organizations, short-term training with job placement for out-school youth, long-term intensive residential programs providing vocational and life skill training, general education and job placement after graduation. Housing dispersal and mobility programs. One of the reasons for high crime and low employment in inner city areas was found to be due to the economic forces that have shifted business to suburban areas. Housing dispersal programs are aimed to counteract this effect by shifting and physically relocating the supply of labor to the suburb areas. Most mobility programs, on the other hand, provide transportation for inner city residents to the suburbs. These programs are not as effective as housing dispersal due to the reduced guardianship and parenting that have potentially negative effect on community. Demand side program aim to reduce the cost of employment borne by the employer. One way to do this is through wage supplements or subsidized bonds. Another alternative is community development programs, which lowers cost for businesses locating in particularly needy communities. The influx of capital into communities characteristic by low employment and high crime should generate jobs and thus by a variety of mechanisms reduce crime in the community. Places and crimes prevention. A place is defined as a very small area reserved for a narrow range of function, often controlled by a single owner and separated from the surrounding area. Places are considered as a institution for crime prevention because research indicates that based on the differences in various characteristics such as population, activities, functions and criminologic risk factors, some places are more prone to crime than others. Such places are referred to as hotspots. Crime prevention in places is achieved by the method of opportunity blocking. Opportunity blocking is an approach where changes are made in the hotspots, making crime more difficult, risky, less rewarding or less excusable. There are 6 types of intervention for preventing crime in residential properties. Restricting pedestrian access and movement, reduced number of pedestrian routes, improved lighting, enhanced appearance of building, target hardening, providing locks and improved security, property marking, marking bulgaric targets, unattractive to offenders, closed circuit television, multi-tactic interventions and repeat victimizations using multiple tactics to prevent crimes such as apartment watch, target hardening, property marking, lighting improvements, reducing drug dealing and crime in private rental places, improved management of rental properties. Policing and crime prevention. The public generally believes that more police is synonymous with less crime. This view is not shared by social scientists who believe family and labor market are far more powerful social institutions that help prevent crime. As an institution, police are more effective when they are focused on risk factors, while community policing does not seem to have much effect. Directed patrols, proactive arrests and problem solving at high crime hotspots has shown substantial evidence of crime prevention. Police can prevent robbery, disorder, gun violence, drunken driving and domestic violence, but only by using certain methods under conditions. Police themselves create a risk factor for crime simply by using bad manners. Modest but consistent scientific evidence support the hypothesis that the less respectful police are towards suspects and citizens generally, the less people will comply with the law. Changing police style may thus be as important as focusing police substance. Making both the style and substance of police practice more legitimate in the eyes of the public, particularly high-risk juveniles, may be one of the most effective long-term police strategies for crime prevention. Crime prevention through police is achieved through number of police. The more number of police in city employs, the less crime it will have. Rapid response to 911, where the shortage of police travel time from assignment to arrival at the crime scene, the less crime there will be. Random patrols. The more random patrols a city receives, the more perceived omnipresence of the police will deter crime in public places. Directed patrols. The more precisely patrol presence is concentrated at the hot spots and hot times of criminal activity, the less crime there will be in those places and times. Reactive arrest. The more arrests police make in response to reported or observed offences of any kind, the less crime will be there. Proactive arrest. The higher the police initiative arrest rate for high risk offenders and offences, the lower the rates for serious violent crime. Community policing, the more quantitative and better quality of contacts between police and citizens, the less crime. Problem oriented policing, the more police can be identified and minimize proximate causes of scientific patterns of crime, the less crime will be there. Crime prevention through courts and corrections. Crime prevention through the criminal justice system aims to prevent offenders from committing crimes again. These programs focus on dealing with the offenders once they are identified as to prevent crime from increasing in community. Reducing crime through the courts and corrections can be classified into 6 categories. Incapacitation or depriving the offender of the capacity to commit crimes, usually through detention in prison or capital punishment. Deterrence or punishment that is so repugnant that neither the punished offender nor others will commit the crime in future. Rehabilitation or treatment directed towards changing the offender and thereby preventing future criminal behavior of the treated individual. Community restraints or the surveillance and the supervision of offenders in the community in order to reduce their capacity and or opportunity for criminal activities. Structured discipline and challenge programs that use physically and or mentally stressful experiences to change the offender in a positive way or deter them from later crime. Combining rehabilitation and restraint in order to ensure that offenders make changes that are associated with the reduction in the future criminal behavior. Conclusion. The 7 institutional settings of crime prevention are communities, families, schools, labor markets, places, police agencies and the criminal justice system. These institutional categories are broad and tend to overlap. Crime and prevention in these settings are highly interdependent. These institutional forces create bonds with the individuals that exert what criminologists call as informal social control in preventing crime. Crime prevention efforts in the 7 institutional settings may be of 2 types, practices and programs. Programs are focused effort to change, restrict or create a routine practice in crime. Preventing setting. Major differences between practices and programs is the commitment of resources. Practices tend to slowly die out in the absence of funding to keep them going. On the other hand, government funded programs tend to run successfully. Crime prevention programs in the 7 institutional settings are mostly government funded programs. Evaluation of these programs is a necessary component in crime prevention, not only to ensure successful crime prevention, but also prevent escalation of factors that could increase crime. Thank you for visiting EPG Pathashala.